Good afternoon, honorable members, Deputy Speaker, House Chairpersons, honorable members and the senior officials of the National Assembly. You are all welcome to this Rules Committee, which has been prepared for with the work that has been done by the Rules Subcommittee. And as such, I don't think this would be a long meeting. We will co-chair the meeting with the Deputy Speaker because unfortunately at 5, I've got the meeting with the Auditor General, but still, I don't think it would be a long matter. The agenda has been circulated, so as the minutes have been circulated to you and the report of the Rules Subcommittee. Honourable members, I had indicated in the NAPC that there are sometimes matters that are of importance to members that end up in the agenda of the NAPC, which ideally should not be in that committee's meeting. Some of those matters obviously are issues that would find expression in the work of the Chief Whips Forum or in the portfolio committees of Parliament. But we do appreciate that some of those matters may really not neatly fit on those structures. So what we have agreed in consultation with Deputy Speaker and the Secretary of the National Assembly is that we will work with the Chief Whips to propose that at least one meeting in a quarter we participate in the Chief Whips Forum, which will then allow for some of those matters which might require the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker so that we reflect on them and we'll see how it goes. Because currently we don't have any other mechanism that would allow an opportunity for engagement on those issues where members feel strongly that need to be deliberated upon. So I just thought I needed to share that with you because we did say we will look at it. Honorable members, the agenda is flighted, but also you have it in your packs. Can I get the mover for the adoption of our agenda? Honorable Laguda moves. Can I get the seconder? Seconded, honorable members by Makubela. Can we look at the minutes of the 17th of July, which have been circulated? Honorable members, are there any corrections on those minutes? Honorable Tosi?
Speaker, I don't think they were circulated.
Oh, they were not?
The minutes, no.
Oh.
I'm informed that they were circulated, but we'll make them available to members now.
No, they're not on email, Speaker.
Hello?
Which circulation email? They are not there. They're not there.
Honorable members, it does seem that there was a challenge. None of the members seem to have received the minutes of the 17th of July. Okay. If members agree with me, can I propose that we do not deal with them today? Then in the next Rules Committee meeting, we will deal with both the minutes of the 17th of July and of today. Is that acceptable to members? Okay, I see the agreed and need to from Changas, which I see right. Thank you, honorable members, for your understanding, and once again, apologize for that mishap. We will now move to the report on the subcommittee on review of assembly rules. Honorable Dlagude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to table the report of the subcommittee. We did meet last week to finalize the report of the subcommittee. So the report is as follows. We all have it. Section 57.
Do we have the report?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay, I just
We
have to
do.
check.
We do.
All right.
Thank you very much. Section 57 of the Constitution of 1996 provides that the National Assembly may make rules and orders to regulate its business with due regard to representative and participatory democracy, accountability, transparency, and public involvement. The rules enables all members to perform their duties effectively. In terms of the National Assembly Rule 193, the Rules Committee is mandated to develop and formulate policy proposals concerning the exclusive business of the Assembly in respect of the proceedings, procedures, rules, orders, and practices of the Assembly. The Subcommittee on Review of Rules, the Subcommittee on Review of Assembly Rules is established to consider the technicalities in relation to matters that serve before the Rules Committee. In keeping with the rules, the subcommittee does not require a quorum and takes decisions by consensus. In the event of no consensus, all views expressed must be reported to the Rules Committee. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, there were a number of matters that were referred to the subcommittee. Some originated from the seventh Parliament, whereas others came from the previous term. These included rules and or guidelines on motions without notice for adoption, closing doors during a division for adoption, the extension of time for the Section 89 panel, it's for adoption, improvement to question time, Annexure A, for adoption of recommendation on quality of replies and noting of observation on optimizing time for questions. Number 5 is the supplementation of membership list, Annexure B, it's for adoption, recusal / withdrawal of members for noting, definitions and terminology in the rules for endorsement, government undertakings and petitions, Annexure C, for adoption, oversight over presidency for adoption, rules for the Money Act for noting. Following initial meetings held shortly after the commencement of the 7th Parliament, the subcommittee met on the 23rd of October and 25th of October 2024 to deliberate on these matters. The report of the subcommittee follows. On motions without notice, at present, Rule 123, Sub-Rule 2D4 allows members to move motions without notice if inter alia at least 5 parties have indicated beforehand that they have no objection to the motion. This requirement has proven onerous and led to the adoption of a standing order whose effect was to amend the rule to allow a member to move a motion without notice unless 5 parties objected thereto. This approach has since been applied without disagreements among parties. In light of this, the subcommittee discussed 2 possible rule amendments to mitigate further challenges. Proposed rule amendment 123 sub-rule 2D. Option 1, at least 5 parties, including the largest party and the second largest minority party, have notified the secretary to the National Assembly at least 30 minutes before the sitting of the House commences that they have no or an objection to the motion being moved without notice. Option 2, at least 5 parties, including the majority and the largest minority parties. Aume.
Order, honorable member,
Aume.
Mr. Clausen.
No, just to, good afternoon, honorable members, Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Just to clarify that the words in bold, the proposal is that they must be removed in brackets. And the underlined ones would be the new provision. So the second one is parties constituting a majority of NA members. If they say that they have an objection, that motion will not go. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you for that clarification. You can proceed, Honorable Laguda.
Proposed rule amendment to Rule 123, Sub-Rule 4. In addition, the subcommittee proposed to add Rule 123, Sub-Rule 4, subject to the conditions for a notice to be read. Once a motion is read in the House, any member may then object to the motion being proceeded with without notice, in which case such a motion will not be put for a decision, but will be considered to be a notice and submitted as such. On closing of.
Order, honorable member, can I put the first matter that you have dealt with on motions without notice? There are 2 options that have been put. And as you have said earlier, that this is for adoption. So which one option are we adopting? Honorable Josie?
Thanks, Speaker. We are for option 2.
Honorable Vessels?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We also support option 2.
Option 2 agreed to. Thank you. And propose rule amendment to Rule 123, subsection 4. Agreed to? Agreed. We now move to 5.2, which is closing doors during division. Honorable Laguda?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. On closing doors during a division, on the 20th of March 2024, the Rules Committee discussed a report from the Subcommittee on physical removal of member from the chamber relating to an incident of the 21st of February 2024, where several members of the Assembly where several members of the Assembly were physically removed from the chamber during a division. In this regard, the committee concurred with the removal of the members, but recommended that Rule 112, which deals with the barring of the doors when voting occurs, be re-examined in circumstances where disruptions occur. Following discussions, the subcommittee proposed the following rule amendment. Proposed rule amendment, Rule 112, when the doors have been barred, no member may enter or leave the chamber until the result of the division has been declared, except in the event the presiding officer has ordered a member to leave the chamber in terms of the rules, or a member to leave the chamber for any other reason to ensure the safety of the member. Then 3, in the event a member has voted but is ordered to leave the chamber in terms of Rule 112, Sub-Rule 2, before the results of the division has been declared, his or her vote shall be counted.
Thank you. I table the proposed amendment. Adopted, agreed to.
Agreed.
Can we move to 5.3 on Section 89 panel extension?
Section 89 panel extension. The National Assembly adopted rules to govern the application of Section 89 of the Constitution concerning the removal of the president on the 22nd of November 2018. The rules provide that inter alia, any independent panel established to conduct a preliminary assessment of the evidence presented by a member must conclude its assessment and report in 30 days. An independent panel was established in 2022. In the process of its assessment, the panel wrote to the Speaker with a request that the 30-day deadline be extended. The former Speaker thereafter applied Rule 6 to provide for such an extension. Rule 6 states that the Speaker may give a ruling or frame a rule in respect of any eventuality for which the rules and orders of the House do not provide, having due regard to the procedures, precedents, practices, and conventions developed by the House, and on the basis of constitutional values and principles underpinning an open and democratic society. A rule framed by the Speaker remains in force until the House, based on a recommendation of the Rules Committee, has decided thereon. Owing to the fact that the decision by the former Speaker was taken in the 6th Parliament, the subcommittee recommended that the Rules Committee consider the following rule amendment. Rule 129G relating to period for independent panel to conduct its work. Rule 129G, sub-rule 3, notwithstanding Rule 129G, sub-rule 1, B, the Speaker may, at the request of the panel and on good cause shown, extend the time period stipulated in the said rule to such longer period as the Speaker may determine, which extended period may not exceed 90 days from the date of the appointment of the panel. In the event that the panel is B, in the event that the panel requests a further extension beyond the period determined by the Speaker, as contemplated in paragraph A, the Assembly may, on good cause shown, determine such an extension, such an extended period.
Thank you. I now put the proposed amendment. Agreed? Agreed, Chair. So that's adopted. I'll now hand over to the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon to all the members. Honourable Dlakudi, you can proceed with the next one.
Questions to the executive and the regulation of ministerial responses. The rules permit members to pose both oral and written questions to the executive, the president, the deputy president, and the ministers.
Point of order, a little point of order.
Honourable Ndlozi, what is your point?
I
of
advise
order?
that the Speaker must stay here because we're going to establish a portfolio committee with the president. It's good that you are here so that you don't say you were not here. It's a very important matter. Can someone else go stand for you where you are going, Speaker?
Honourable Ndlozi, I think the Speaker has taken note, but she has made her decision. Right, please proceed, Honourable Dlakudi.
Ndlozi, ayaphazamisa man. The rules permit on questions to the executive and the regulation of ministerial responses. The rules permit members to pose both oral and written questions to the executive, the president, and the deputy president and ministers. Conversely, members of the cabinet must provide Parliament with full and regular reports on matters under their control. The Constitution also provides for all spheres of government and all organs of state within each sphere to exercise their powers and perform their functions in a manner that does not encroach on the geographical, functional, or institutional integrity of government in another sphere. On the 26th of June, 2024, the Rules Committee discussed the sequence of questions, the number of questions taken during a question time, and the option of extending the time allocated. And finally, concerns related to the nature of ministerial replies. Based on the discussions, the options for discussions were prepared. These options are attached on Annexure A. Based on the discussion of the challenges and options presented, members of the subcommittee made the following observation. The quality of executive replies. The rules of the assembly provide for questions to be on matters, provide for the questions to be on matters the relevant minister is officially responsible for. That is Rule 134, Sub-Rule 5B. The Constitution also provides for members of the Cabinet to provide Parliament with full and regular reports on matters under their control. That is Section 9(2), subsection 3B. The Constitution also provides for all spheres of government and other organs of state within the sphere to exercise their powers and perform their functions in a manner that does not encroach on the geographical, functional, or institutional integrity of government in other sphere. That is Section 41, subsection 1G. The Rules Committee amplified these provisions in its decision on the 2nd of September 2022, that was 80 seat in November, on the 30th of November 2022, that is page 9, that related to the concurrent responsibilities between the province, national, and local sphere of government. Concerning the scope of the ministerial responsibilities and their answerability on functional areas of concurrent responsibility between the different spheres of government and how this impacted on the timelines of replies. Questions to the executive should take into account their respective competences. The National Assembly, in establishing the system to monitor delayed replies to questions on the 2nd of September 2022, also determined that when ministers replies to question, the speaker may not dictate the form in which a minister should reply, but they are expected to answer the specific points contained in a question. That was 80 seat on the 25th of August 2021. Reprint page 2. In terms of Rule 7, members must comply with any guidelines and directives of the Rules Committee. Accordingly, this directive is binding on executive, and the Rules Committee should affirm this position. Further, the subcommittee recommended that political parties should monitor the replies they received to parliamentary questions until the end of this annual session and write to the speaker in respect of every reply that, in their view, fell short on providing a qualitative response. The party, in its communication to the speaker, outlined how the minister failed to provide a quality reply. Number 3, the speaker will compile and refer a report to the subcommittee on the review of the Assembly Rules meeting in 2025. The subcommittee will then consider the concerns raised by parties. The subcommittee may then propose a further period of monitoring and reporting, depending on whether the core concerns were covered or not. The subcommittee will then consider protocols and guidelines on the executive replies, these will then put to the Rules Committee for further consideration and adoption. Optimizing time for questions. It was desirable that as many ministers as possible answer oral questions in the House on a question day without detracting from the prerogative of parties to prioritize their questions. While the possibility of interpellation could be explored further, the current arrangement of supplementary questions could be revised, for an example, to allow the questioner a second opportunity to pose a supplementary questions. The time for ministerial responses to an initial question could be reduced from 4 to 3 minutes to reach more original questions. The number of supplementary questions could also be reduced. In the context and specifically on optimizing time for questions, the Rules Committee is requested to note the observations made and allow the subcommittee time to explore improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Dlakude. Honourable Michalakis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Under optimizing time for questions, I do not agree with point 2 there. I would like to propose that this committee task the subcommittee with coming up with rules for interpellations, and that parties should be afforded the opportunity to make submissions in this regard. Thank you.
Honourable members, we now have a proposal here. I'm going to allow for that to be discussed. Honourable Ndlozi.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. We 100% support the resolution that the Rules Committee should should agree that there must be a development of a rule for interpolation, because we just want to say that the entire recommended changes will not improve the quality of replies, but the system of interpolation is the only hope we have. That's the first thing. So we support that proposal. In terms of point number we wanted a rule, a on-the-spot rule. So there is a rule in relation to debates in which if we're debating a specific subject, I can raise a point of order if the person that is debating goes out of topic, and the speaker or the chairperson on the spot can say to the person, stick to the topic. We asked for a development of a rule in that regard during questions and answers, whether of the entire executive, that if a person that is answering ventures out of topic or does not answer the question properly, on the spot, the speaker doesn't have to say you must answer in a specific way. They can at least say, in terms of the original answer, the original question, you are not answering the question because you have ventured out. So we would move that the Rules Committee refer that particular development of a rule back to the Sub-Rules Committee. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honourable Ndlozi. Honourable Mhlaule.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Actually, the matter on interpellations accidentally found its way to the agenda. It was not an item on our agenda. We discussed it, and if it was correctly captured, there wouldn't be a reason why the Chief Whip of the DA raises the issue. We summarized it exactly the way Honorable Ndlozi is saying, that it must be referred to the subcommittee for further discussions. It's a premature discussion. We can enhance it better when there is a guide, a framework, comparisons from other countries and previous histories before 1994, because it was there, it was just discontinued. So we agreed that it must be referred back to the subcommittee. The issue about the on-the-spot challenge, I just want to make one distinction, that with the speaker saying you are not answering the question, can you stick to the question? We agree. We don't agree, however, for a member to come and stop the minister or the president, say, you are not answering our question, because the subjective nature of the question, of the answer that a member may want, may turn the House into chaos. So we did not agree on that, but we do agree that there must be a framework in which the speaker, if he or she determines that the minister or the president is not answering the question, they must be able to apply their mind as a presiding officer to say, you are out, you are not responding to the question, please come back to the question. So we agree with that framework, but not a member who asked the question or a member on the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mashlali. Yes, Honorable Manyi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think that last input is problematic because some of the chairs are conflicted, chairs of sessions are conflicted because they are part of the coalition. So they tend to soft pedal when the members of the executive are being questioned. So to leave the whole thing to whoever would be chairing is problematic. But that's not why I'm rising. Chair, I think on the issues of political parties, on the subtopic that says on page 4, further the subcommittee recommended that, then it's about 6 points. Just on point 1, political parties should monitor the replies. I think that is very iffy. I mean, what is the benchmark that you're monitoring against? What is the yardstick? What is it that you're looking for? So I want to propose that let's just perhaps take this back to the subcommittee to knock to shape, if you like, key performance indicators of sorts that should be in place. I mean, to just simply say monitor. What exactly are we monitoring against what? What is the standard? So it's very wishy-washy, this thing. So I'm recommending that in order for us to know that now we've got a quality response, it must tick certain boxes. So the subcommittee must develop those boxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members. Yes, Honorable Mashlali.
You know, in the subcommittee, Honorable Ndlozi asked that we must not mark each other with Honorable Manyi, but it's very difficult. I must say, it's very difficult. You can't make rules on the basis of that you are suspicious of a presiding officer. We can't do that. When we put presiding officers, we are saying they must be impartial, and that's part of the rules and the Constitution. Now, if somebody is persuading us or attempting to persuade us on the basis of that, they are suspicious that other presiding officers are linked to another political, we may as well not have a presiding officer if that's the case. It's problematic that framework he wants to use to persuade us. We're not persuaded at all.
Honorable members, before I come to you, Honorable Wessels, could I perhaps just say, I agree that I don't think this is the place to cast aspersions on any of the presiding officers and make assumptions. We should proceed on the basis of rules and what is in the interest of the House. Honorable Wessels.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I think we should refer this whole section back to the subcommittee. And I think we are all in agreement with that. So I would propose we just amend the resolution to not read specifically on optimizing time for questions, but that we refer back the whole section, which includes interpellations, which includes the point on relevance. But on that point of the relevance of an answer by a member of the executive, Deputy Speaker, I don't think that Rule 68 is not applicable. I do think it is applicable. And I do think that members do have the right to raise on a point of order and call the attention of a presiding officer during question time that a member of the executive is not relevant to the question. It's then up to the ruling by the presiding officer. So I don't think we need a specific new rule on that. Irrelevance pertains to any member that is addressing the House, and that could be interpreted as any member, a minister as well, that's answering a question. But that is something that the subcommittee should further explore, and that's why I propose we refer it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Vessels. There is a proposal. I also wanted to, from the chair's side, propose that because it is very clear there is no consensus on this particular item. So we have a proposal that this whole matter, that is point 4, that is the improvements to question time included in the interpellations, that this be referred back to the subcommittee for further deliberation and for a decision and a report on that. Honourable Mente, do you second that?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Yes, we second that the whole section must go back, but they must also take into consideration the fact that a member in the House has a right to raise a point of order against an irrelevant answer, because a point of relevance is very important. So a speaker would then determine if it's subjective or not. But we should not close members out to say then the House will degenerate. It will degenerate if the speaker is not giving guidance. But once the speaker make a determination on the point of order and the matters of relevance to the question, then the speaker will make such a determination. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mente. Honourable Horn.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Speaker. Look, in my experience, irrelevance is sometimes in play, but there is another issue which I don't think is necessarily irrelevance, and which I think we must task the subcommittee specifically with, and that is sometimes members of the executive, unfortunately, are not fully prepared. That may lead to them becoming irrelevant in answering, but my suggestion would be, if the subcommittee is going to look into interpellations, that specifically a member of the executive who in the view of the member posing the question ultimately was not properly prepared, that interpellations on a fairly short turnaround time must be looked into in that regard. That's the only way ultimately in which one can prevent a situation where the only thing you get from a minister with respect to them all is that they are looking into the matter and will in some point in the future come back with some sort of a executive statement or a policy or whatever. So my suggestion would be that the subcommittee must build something in that if an answer is clearly pointing to a lack of policy or a lack of preparedness on the side of the executive, that on a short turnaround basis, the next week, an interpellation must follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Horn. Honourable members, before we now go into the work that we want to refer to the subcommittee, can we first just have consensus that this whole matter be referred back to the subcommittee? We've had a proposal, we have a seconder, Honourable Lakude.
Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I think in the subcommittee, we agreed with the optimizing of time for questions that parties will have to observe whether the core points of a question has been responded to. We agreed on this one. The only item that we said it needs further processing is the issue of the interpellations. We said, Honorable Speaker, we remember that, all of us, that interpellations were there in this parliament from 1994 or from 19 whatever, then up until 2000 when they were discontinued. Then we said this needs further processing so that we can have a better understanding, all of us, how this will benefit, the.
Honourable Lakude, just a minute. Honourable Manye.
Yeah, Chair, I think this is a problem when people serve in all committees, because now the member is defending the work of a subcommittee in this space when the meeting has decided that everything must be referred back.
Honourable Manye, there are a number of members who serve on the subcommittee who also serve on the Rules Committee. That is how it works. The subcommittee is part of the Rules Committee. So Honorable Lakude, please proceed.
Thank you very much. You will learn anyway, Honorable Speaker. With time, you will know how Parliament works. Honorable Speaker, we said this issue of interpellations need to be further processed so that we can all have a better understanding. But in the meantime, we use what we have. We didn't say that this whole information about the questions must go back. We agreed on the further processing on interpellations, of which even now, I still agree with it, that the interpellations need to be further processed. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Lakude. Honorable Ndlozi.
No, that's fine, Speaker. In fact, well, maybe we did not clarify each other properly, but what is going back, as far as I'm concerned, to the sub-rules is not here. So we're saying that point 2 on optimization must be, we must task the subcommittee to develop a rule. So it means there must be an agreement here that there must be interpellations. What the committee is going to do is not discuss whether there must be interpellations or not. The subcommittee is coming with a proposed rule. That's the first thing. The honorable money will be covered by point 6 in the previous section. The subcommittee will then consider protocols and guidelines on executive replies. These will then be put to the Rules Committee for further consideration and adoption. It means we do have a mandate to go and say, what are the guidelines to consider whether there was a qualitative reply or not. So that's why I limited myself earlier, and I think with respect to Honorable Vessels, who is out now, Rule 68, if we agreed applies, I have no problem. My final problem, have you noticed that there is a growing phenomenon, Comrade Mdu, particularly from NC MPs, that on the opportunity of a follow-up question, they repeat the original question. It happened again even today. The Deputy President even said to a person, but I've already, in my original answer, answered that question. Whilst it's a reflection on the quality of responses from a specific political party, we may want to ask the Sub-Rules Committee to, we must be allowed, like, we can't have, in a question and answer session, members of parliament as well, not qualitatively interrogating the executive. And me and the Deputy Speaker had a standoff on the question, but I do think in the spirit of this item, we want to say that we will be able as well to hold ourselves as parliament to the same standard we demand of the executive. The follow-ups must be quality as well. But what it must not be allowed, what must not happen, Deputy Speaker? Like, think about it, like, we're adults, we're here on behalf of millions of South Africans. Is for a person paid by the people to come and repeat the original question and an opportunity to hold the executive accountable. It's really, really something that must be declared criminal. It's illegal. Comrade Mdu. With respect, this is like very, very positive criticism. Thank you.
I have the Honorable Michalakis and then the Honorable Koornhof.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairperson, I agree. My original proposal was not whether we explore whether we want interpellations. It's a matter of we would like interpellations, but that the subcommittee actually explores what they should look like. We don't have to go on study tours. We don't have to have long discussions. It was in the rules before. We can maybe tweak it here and there to make it more applicable to the modern parliament. But the original proposal that I made was that we agree that this is desirable and that the subcommittee just explores what it should look like and how it should be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Koornhof, then Honorable Dagmore.
We now on page 4 and we are dealing with a subcommittee further recommended. This is part of paragraph 4. So can I appeal to you that we listen to the completion of paragraph 4 on the next page with a recommendation and questions, and then take a decision.
Honourable Koornhof, we have actually gone to that part. So that was where the discussion started regarding the interpellations and the on-the-spot rule. And so I think we are at the point where there was a proposal, there was a seconder, and then there were additional points made. Honourable Mashlaule, are you covered? Okay. Honourable members, we still have a proposal that was seconded, so we have to deal with that, and that is that this matter be referred, Honourable Vessels, I'm glad you're back. Your proposal was that the whole point be referred back to the subcommittee. That includes interpellations because reference is made to interpellations in this particular one. I think in terms of the quality of replies, that would cover Honourable Horn's point in terms of relevance, irrelevance. So could I ask, is there anyone who is opposed to this, that it be sent back to the subcommittee for further deliberation and that the Rules Committee then look at whatever is the consensus after that? Can we proceed on that matter? Honourable Michalakis?
My apologies, Madam Chair, but I'm not clear then whether the Rules Committee has indicated whether interpellations are desirable or not. Are we leaving it open? I would suggest that we actually make a decision here. It was briefly discussed in the subcommittee, and it was briefly presented to us what it entails and all of that. I would prefer for the Rules Committee to make a decision on whether it's desirable, and then we can only take what it will look like to the subcommittee, instead of referring it blanketly to the subcommittee for deliberations and then for us to have to decide whether we want it or not. I think from our side, at least, it's clear that we would like it, and that was my initial proposal.
Thank you. Let me just first put, we have a proposal. There's now an amendment on that proposal that the whole thing is not just referred back, but that a decision is taken by the Rules Committee now on the desirability. Honourable Dugmore, my apologies, I omitted you.
It's fine. The Deputy Chief Whip has indicated that you want to speak. I'm not a full member, but I was on the subcommittee and I recall that the wording there, the possibility of interpellations could be supported, is correct.
Deputy Speaker, we can't hear.
Okay, it is, Honourable Dugmore says that.
Shall I say that again?
Please, yes,
Yeah.
please repeat that.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm not a member of this committee, but I was on the subcommittee proposal. So, and I noted that our Deputy Chief would want to speak, but I just wanted to say, having been in that subcommittee, that wording, while the possibility of interpellations could be explored further, the current arrangement is what we agreed. So my understanding from what's being proposed is that's going to go back to the subcommittee for further discussion.
Thank you, Honourable Lakudi, and then Honourable Nodada, I also omitted you, sorry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker. I keep on promoting you. Okay. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I think it will be unfair for this committee to take a decision on the desirability of the interpellation if we don't have the information. What we said the NA table must provide information on interpellations because some of us, we were not there when interpellations were there. So they must provide the information so that we can understand and agree and then process it further. Thanks.
Quite a few hands. Honourable Nodada, your hand was first, then Honourable Mashlaule, then Dlozi, then Honourable Manyi.
All right, thank you.
Honourable Ndu.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. I think the Rules Committee is well within its space to take a decision of this nature. I would like to suggest, Deputy Speaker, that based on your summary in the ruling, it must include the following. One, this committee, now there's a proposal that we make a determination that we want interpellations, and therefore referring the establishment of the rules around interpellations to go to the subcommittee. That's the first thing. Secondly, there's a proposal from Honourable Vessels that says this particular section in terms of the questions must go back to the subcommittee to develop it way better. But the establishment of interpellations is something that we must take as a decision here. We agree that that must go there. And once that agreement has been done, then the subcommittee is then tasked to make that determination. So that's basically what I think must be determined Now, information about, interpellations, those things can be sent through to the subcommittee for further information on how those were done before. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Nodada. Before I give the other hands, the Honourable Nodada has now proposed an amendment on an amendment. So I think at this particular point, let's start with the last one. Honourable Nodada proposed that the matter be referred, but specifically that a decision is taken by the Rules Committee in terms of the desirability of interpellations, and that the task or the subcommittee then be tasked to look at the specific modalities of how the interpellations will function. Honourable Wessels.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I support that. I don't think it's necessarily an amendment. It's actually two proposals. The first proposal was made by the Honourable Mikalakis, and I would second that. Fact of the matter is we can say to each other, there's a need for interpellations. What that will entail, if it is once in 3 years or once in a sitting or only in question time, those details we'll discuss in the subcommittee on rules. So I don't think we have to now see and be scared of interpellations because we think if we say it's desirable, it's going to mean something. The meaning thereof will be discussed in the subcommittee according to the facts provided and the research provided. So I would support that, and I think there's been actually two proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Wessels' proposal right at the start was that the whole section be referred back without specific reference to the desirability. The second one is then that the desirability is determined here in this Rules Committee, and on the basis of that, it is referred back the whole section to the subcommittee. I have seen other hands. Honourable Ndlozi, no, let me give Honourable Ntuli.
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I think I understand why the chair of the subcommittee on rules is raising a concern on this matter. On previous occasions, when we've had to take decisions on certain issues before us, we have agreed that once we have sufficient information about whatever decision that we need to make, we are then in a better position to take an informed decision. It was this committee which, instead of taking decisions on some of the matters we're considering today, agreed that those matters must be deferred to a subcommittee which would be empowered to have more details than we were exposed at in our Rules Committee meeting, so that whatever that comes to us has been adequately processed with the information that would have empowered the subcommittee when they make a recommendation to the Rules Committee. So I don't think that there is a fundamental disagreement about the desirability or the need for interpellations. That may be a function of what is going to happen when the discussion unfolds. But I think the point that is being raised here, which I don't want us to sideline, because then in future, when we come back to the practice I have observed in the past meeting, then it becomes a problem on which matter must we be favored with information before we take an informed decision. I think the principle is that if, let's say we agree that the interpellations are important, and the committee must go and deal with the details around how should they apply in our current context. What I hear the chair of the Sub-Rules Committee saying is that why can't we allow them as a small team to be immersed in the details that we are not exposed to here today and now, for them to make a decision that, yes, of course, this is desirable and these are the conditions under which it can be applied. I don't think there is a major issue of disagreement on the application of interpellation. Now, the way in which we're advancing our argument, some of us, seems to suggest that there is a disagreement about the importance of interpellations. My view is that I don't think I see that. What I see here being a problem is a Rules Committee that in the past had said, we need more work to be done here. We're not exposed to details. Go and work it in the subcommittee. And today coming back and say, well, we don't have much information on this issue, but we want it. Go and tell us how we can implement it. So I thought the best way to handle it is to note the proposals that are being made, which are not objected to, but leave the matter to the rules subcommittee to engage with the details and come back with the recommendation. That's what I thought I'm hearing to be a point of contention, Deputy Speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Ntuli. Then Honourable Frolick.
I thought the Honourable Ndlozi was ahead of me, Deputy Speaker, but I'll take, I think it's positive discrimination. No, thank you. No, I think largely the Chief Whip has covered me. I'm not a member of the subcommittee, and I would like to have a complete picture of exactly how this interpellations will impact on the program, firstly, of Parliament. What exactly will happen when we have interpellations? Have we had, through you, Deputy Speaker, to Mr. Kaso, an analysis of how interpellations was done in the past? I can remember then even it changed all the way to what we have now as questions. So in the absence of that information, it's difficult to take an in-principle decision that will ultimately come back to us again. And it's like almost giving a blank check and say, no, go ahead and do it. And we don't know exactly what the broader issues is around the interpellations, because ultimately there will have to be a compromise somewhere if we add interpellations to it, and we want to see what that impact will be. And the subcommittee should be the correct place where that is processed.
Thank you, Honourable Frolick. Honourable Ndlozi, did I omit you or skip you? Because I also have Honourable Manye.
I'm in your hands. You tell me.
You ask so nicely, Honourable Ndlozi. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. We are 100% in support of the fact that the Rules Committee must agree that there's going to be interpellations in this Parliament as a different mechanism of holding the executive accountable to the question time. And the Sub-Rules Committee must be tasked to go develop that rule. That is the proposal which has been put, and we're supporting it. All the concerns of the Honorable Floric and the Honorable Chief Whip of the largest political party will be interrogated in the sub-rules. But there's going to be interpellations as a mechanism in addition to question time. It used to exist in Parliament, it exists in the Western Cape, and it's going to exist here. That is what we're saying. The Rules Committee must decide now that we're taking a resolutions, we're going to have interpellations. The Sub-Rules Committee must go develop a rule. That is how it must read. That's the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Manye.
No, I'm being clear.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's not like we're talking about a revolutionary concept that no one knows anything about. We're talking about this. If we know this. The only difference is just the detail that this thing must now be contextualized and brought to life in the context of what we're doing. So the proposal there by Honorable note that the other name is so difficult, Makalakis. What's the right name?
Close
Is it?
enough.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. I think, Chair, I agree with that submission. And I think, this resistance to efficiency is a problem. And this is why the country is suffering with a whole range of things. Just a simple thing, a mountain, make a mold out of make what you call it, a mountain out of a mold. This thing is not complicated, because if the subcommittee comes back with something that is not acceptable, this committee will shoot it down. So this committee, we support the view that this committee must take a definite decision that this thing that is not being heard of for the first time in South Africa, called interpellations, we accept it. It's a good approach to interrogate ministers so to kind of get the sense of whether they actually even understand what they're talking about. So it's a very important tool to use. The only thing that the subcommittee must do is to develop the details around it. That's why are we spending half an hour on this? So we support the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Manye. Honourable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Well, I was part of the sub-rules committee, and in my recollection, we did not agree on the concept of interpellations. We looked at the process of how the question and answer session is, and also we then said, we think the current form of a question and answer session is sufficient to get the executive to respond. That's my recollection. And we said the concept of interpellation is not a far-stretched or is not a bad concept. However, we did not go into its discussion. And then we said we will not bring interpellation into the processes, but however, we'll stick to the question and answer session and also the snap debates that we have currently. I want to propose that we don't support the fact that you are saying we need interpellation as a form or part of getting the executive to respond.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Lakudi.
For the sake of progress, Honorable Deputy Speaker, in the subcommittee, we agreed that this must be processed further. Let's refer it back to the subcommittee for further processing, the issue of the interpellations. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Lakudi. We now have two positions. Honourable Okamp.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Deputy Speaker, I do not see any problem with this body here making a decision on the desirability of something. Let me explain to you. Let's say we've got a soccer club in Cape Town, and that soccer club expresses the desire to go on a soccer tour to Kimberley. That's their desire and they express it. Then they go afterwards. They can appoint a committee or they can go into whether they can afford it, what route will they travel, which hotel will they stay, all those. And then they maybe come back and say, although we desire this, it's not implementable because we don't have the money or we don't have the time or whatever. But the desire or to express the desire by this body can easily be done. It does not say it will be implemented, but the desire for interpellations to be there this body can make the decision and then refer it for scrutiny and ways of which it can be implemented and maybe come back with no, it can't be implemented, or yes, it can on this and this way. So I fully support what Honourable Michalakis and Nodara and Wessels has said. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Okamp. Honourable Ndlozi, I think we have to come to some kind of point and a decision now. Honourable Ndlozi.
Deputy Speaker, with respect, I'm going to go and repeat my original support of the submission. It is on these grounds. The Rules Committee takes a decision that interpolation will become one of the mechanisms, tasks the subcommittee to go develop the rules and come back with a proposal. This is how it must appear, meaning we are not debating whether there are going to be interpolations or not. We are deciding they are coming. The ministers are going to be interpolated. The subcommittee must go look at how that rule must come and sound like, then come back with the rule here. That is the proposal on the table that we are supporting. Maybe the comrades who moved it can repeat it. I'm just a bit more clear. It's my gift, you know.
You could have fooled me, Honourable Ndlozi. My dilemma at this particular point is that is not quite what the Honourable Okamp said. He said that desirability does not necessarily mean that it will happen. It means that it is a possibility and that it is desirable that it be examined further or discussed further. The same with the desirability of a piece of legislation. It doesn't mean it will be enacted. So I will have to, from the chair, make a ruling now because we're going to go around in circles and circles. So I would want us to, at this particular point, given the fact that there is no consensus to this matter, refer this matter back to the subcommittee, that they also look at the desirability, but that we have the proviso as the Rules Committee, that it is not off the table. Honourable Michalakis, we cannot go round and round and round, because otherwise I'm going to have to put it to the vote. I will then put it to the vote. Good. We will then start with the last amendment, which is that the matter be referred, point 4, to the subcommittee, and that there's also a decision at this committee that interpellations are deemed to be desirable and that the subcommittee must look at possible ways and rules amendments to deal with interpellations. That is, as I understood, the Honourable Nodada. So those in favour of that amendment. We are 23 members. If I can also ask the
Can you repeat what we're voting for?
Chair, just before, sorry, just
who's
before
speaking now?
you,
Yes, Honourable
you do
Thuli.
I think the way you are explaining it makes it complicated in my ears. The decision where we are disagreeing here, where we would like you to guide us in the way you have started to decide on, is whether or not interpellations will be part of our practices and that the committee goes to investigate how to implement it. Because the disagreement is not just a general disagreement on the committee work on, is the committee here a proposal being made that we must agree here and now, that is it accepted. So the dispute is whether we accept it here and now. The vote must be about yes or no on whether we accept it now or not. That's where we disagree.
Right. The proposal by the Honourable Nodada is as I captured it now. Honourable Ntuli is now proposing that we have a separate point on the desirability, so that we have on one hand the referral back and on the other hand the decision on the desirability. Now I see there is disagreement on that. Honourable Michalakis?
Sorry, Deputy Speaker, I just had my head in my hand. That's all. I did not raise my hand. I mean, how many amendments do we want to amendments at the end of the day? I think I was quite clear at the beginning that this Rules Committee, my proposal was, and I think it doesn't differ from Honourable Nodada's, is that the Rules Committee decide we want it or we don't want it, and then for the subcommittee to come up with what it will look like. As simple as possible. I think I'm more talented than Honourable Ndlozi in that regard.
Indeed, Honourable Michalakis, but the Honourable Ntuli then said we have to have one specific question on the desirability and another question on the referral back to the subcommittee. So in terms of procedure, honourable members, I will start with the last point of the Honourable Ntuli. And is it seconded that we decide on only first the desirability and then the referral back? Honourable Wessels.
Deputy Speaker, that's exactly what I proposed quite a long time ago, is that we don't deal with it as two contrary proposals, but that there's a proposal by the Honourable Michalakis on the desirability. That is one proposal, and then there's a proposal on referring back the matter, but it's not contrary, it's not separate, it's not conflicting proposals, and we deal with it as two separate proposals. That's what I meant.
Honourable Wessels, I would not like to disagree with you, but that was not how it was put by the Honourable Nodada. And that is why we now have the 2 points, and your initial proposal was slightly different from that. And I'm trying to keep this procedurally because we have to get it correct. Honourable Mani, I really want us to go past this point now.
I want to assist you quickly, Chair. The black and white of this issue is this. There's a majority of us that are saying we desire the interpellations, but we want the subcommittee to go and work on the details. Then there's the other group that says, we want somebody to decide whether we want to like them or not. This is another proposal to say, we must not make a decision that we desire them. We must first get all the information, everything to make a determination whether is this desirable after that work. That's the, yeah, so the one is, we were clear, we desire this, but we are responsible adults. We say, despite the fact that we have made a point to desire them, somebody go and work out the detail.
Indeed, the dilemma is, honourable members, that if there is a vote on the desirability and it is voted down, what is referred to the subcommittee? Because then it is deemed not to be desirable.
No, Speaker,
Honourable
Deputy Speaker, can I, maybe let me explain this slowly. Deputy Speaker, what I stood up to object to was not whether or not this is desirable. The issue was that on previous occasions, when we are required to deal with a matter that ultimately must be decided based on a full comprehension of the details, we have taken a principled decision that such matters must be referred to the Rules Subcommittee to help us entertain the details and come with a recommendation. My opposition to us taking a principled decision without even being exposed to details and the implication of one way or the other on deciding of the matter is that I'm saying we are, for no apparent reasons, moving away from the practice we've been using when we are dealing with the matters that ultimately must go to the Rules Committee. That is the issue that I am raising. I'm not saying that if, for instance, let me practically say, if the meeting agrees by a majority that the principled decision is not made here, it doesn't mean that the matter is no longer going to be entertained by the Rules Subcommittee to come back and give us a recommendation about desirability with information that is required. So as if the meeting by majority here decide, we need it here, go and work on the details, as others are saying. The same is going to happen, but all I'm opposed to is us making a principled decision on the matter that we don't have the information except what others are referring to. We are hearing it here. How was it done? And we're being told it's not in the report. We're being told here it was done in this way, it ended at this time. Why was it done in that way? Why did it end? What were the issues around it? Okay, sure, we understand now what we're talking about. Let's refer to the Rules Subcommittee to go and work on. That is the point of contention that we're raising.
Absolutely, Honourable Ntuli, but Honourable Ndlozi has the total opposite view in that he proposes that it must be decided now whether it is desirable or not. That is the proposal that is on the table right now, not to refer it back for further investigation, but that the decision be taken now. And that, as chair, I am faced with that particular proposal right now. So I am putting it now to the Rules Committee, honourable members, that there is a proposal, that there is a decision taken by the Rules Committee that interpellations is deemed to be desirable. Yes or no? Those in favour, please raise your hands. We are 23 members, so a majority would then be 12. The quorum is 11. 12, no, Mr. 12, yes. So 13, 1, 2.
The composition of the committee is 23. So the quorum is based on the composition of the committee.
Correct. Okay, I get 10 in favour. Do I see all the hands?
The counters are happening. Ms. Lyons, will you just help us with the numbers, please?
Please keep your hands raised.
Maybe I could also in the process share.
Honourable Ndlozi, are you voting or not?
Ma'am, can I explain that, please?
Yes, please, Mr. Kasu,
The
Please.
EFF has one
one
member.
member. Okay, right. Only members, full members, not alternates may vote.
If the full member is here, the alternate cannot vote, but if the full member is not, the alternate may vote. So for MK, Honorable Mani, no, I'm just trying to check the members. The three of them. Okay. So the MK, so it's okay.
Right.
Chair,
Honorable Mshlauli,
Mr. Tasso was still saying in MK who votes and who is an alternative before we were really disrupted.
yes. Honorable, Mr. Kasu,
We just want to verify because MK's membership was verified today, so my colleagues are going to help me who the names are. Who are the members who are members of this committee. But for the ANC has 7 members. And the DA has 4 members. Honorable, the Chief Whip, Honorable Notada, Honorable Ocamp. I take it that, how many do we have now? 3, all right, because Honorable Portland is not here. Okay, the ANC, I have Honorable Ntuli, Honorable Dakude, Honorable Mahlaule, Honorable Makubela, Honorable Chabane, Honorable Matafa, Honorable Dereko here. Yes, so that's the ANC membership. And then the EFF, Honorable Mende is the alternate to Honorable Lamini, as I understand it. And then for the other parties, we have Honorable Hadebe, we had Honorable Vessels and Honorable Webster. Yes.
right, members, so you know who may vote. Can we raise your hands again? Honorable Ntlozi, do you want to vote or do you want to have a?
And I thought he's going to read Rule 196 on decisions. How do we make decision here? A question before the Rules Committee is decided when there is a quorum present in terms of Rule 1952. And there is agreement on the question among the majority of members present. So I'm correcting him because he was saying we require 12. So we need to know what is the present of the 23 now. And then majority of that is what is the decision. Agreed?
No, could I just explain? The 12 is a quorum.
Agreed, but
And therefore, you are right.
what do we require now?
The
for a
majority of the members present, the majority of the
Yes.
23. But firstly, we must make sure that, the members who are voting are the correct members.
No.
So we have confirmed with the MK that these
Deputy
are the
Speaker,
MK
with
members.
your and that protection, I don't want the dialogue, and he's interrupted me.
Mr. Kasu,
I'm
it's quite
saying,
correct. We have
can we-
a quorum and the majority of
No,
the.
I don't
quorum-
mind quorum. How many members are present of the 23? Because there are people who are absent. And of the 23, as soon as maybe there are 20 present. If there are 20, majority of the members present will be 11. If there are 19, like that. That's the question I want answered.
Right, let's determine the quorum. Mr. Kasu, you have now determined who's here. There should be,
Madam Deputy Speaker, the quorum remains 12.
12,
There's
yes.
19 members present. So the majority of that will carry them. Yes.
10. So could we please now just raise our hands? Those in favor, honorable members, those in favor, please raise your hands.
Is Honorable Horn also a member?
He is indeed.
Chairperson,
Mr.
when Mr. Kaso mentioned DA people, he did not mention honorable. Otherwise, we will have to mention honorable Frolic as well. It's wrong.
Honorable Horn
No.
is,
3, he is not here. He's not the excluding presiding officer.
No, okay, no. May I
Yes,
explain, honorable
please,
members?
Mr. Kasu. Honorable Ndlozi.
Honorable members, honorable members, the membership of the Rules Committee was amended at the start of this parliament. Now, that's in the report of the committee that was adopted here. Now, before, House chairpersons could not vote. But currently, House chairpersons are part of the membership of the committee. So which means that Honorable Frolic, Honorable Horn may vote.
Honorable members, let's proceed. The count was, Mr. Kasu, if I have it, it was 10.
Count was 10, all right, Tanya?
10.
It was 10, yes.
So the majority has voted in favor. So at this point, the matter of interpellations is deemed to be desirable. Then I put the next proposal to the committee, and that is that the matter be referred back to the subcommittee. That includes the quality of questions, replies, that be referred. That includes then the way in which interpellations will work back to the subcommittee. Anyone opposed to that? Not, thank you. We can then proceed. Right, Honorable Dlakudi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We are on supplementation of membership list. The Electoral Act of 1998 sets out procedures concerning the membership lists of political parties contesting elections in relation to the National Assembly. After the designation of members to the Assembly by the Electoral Commission, Parliament is responsible for the administration concerning the supplementation of these lists. Parliament must therefore ensure that all legal procedural prescripts pertaining to the supplementation of lists are followed. The Speaker requested the subcommittee to consider developing directives to guide the relevant processes. Draft directives were accordingly developed and presented to members. Essentially, the directives seek to achieve the following: to protect the rights of both political parties, to supplement and review lists in terms of the applicable laws and of the candidates on the supplementary list of parties, to achieve transparency by ensuring that the names of candidates on the supplementation list are published in the parliamentary website and announcements, tablings, and committee reports publications for a period of 10 days before the new members are sworn in. A commitment by the respective party that, to the best of its knowledge, a candidate presented to Parliament meets the constitutional requirements to be a member of Parliament. After discussions, the subcommittee endorsed the directives and recommended that the Rules Committee adopt them. The full directives are attached as Annexure B. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dlakudi. I put this point to the Rules Committee. Is it adopted? Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Now, once you say the full directive are on annexure, on an annexure that is not here. And another thing is, this was referred by the Speaker. And I'm not really clear as to what is it that we're changing in the current system. of political parties and candidates and in terms of the reviewal of the list? Is it speaking to the term? We can review a list after this term, or what is it that we are trying to do with this particular rule? I am not clear at all what we want to achieve with this rule.
I will give the Honourable Dlakude an opportunity now, but I have to say that the directives were attached, so we have received them. Honourable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We said in the subcommittee rules, lists of political parties are published by the IEC for public comments. So if names were part of those lists which were published and published by the IEC, it's okay. But if it's a new list or a new member who was not part of the previously published list, their names must be published. They must follow the same processes that all of us have followed so that the public can comment. That is what we agreed upon. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Honourable Moshlale, then Honourable Horn, then Honourable Manyi.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Speaker. The first point I wanted to say is that we do have the annexure. And Honorable Dlakude is correct that our sentiments were that if you are new and you are meant, there's no way in which you are subjected to what we are subjected to when our list is published, is taken to the IEC, because there's a period in which they look at me where I'm coming from, whether I have a criminal record, whether I'm acceptable in the, am I rapist in my community or something like that. But we also are vetted by IEC. But the new one, if they come, they are not vetted anywhere, and we are saying they must be subjected to the very same issue we are subjected to. That's basically what we are bringing here as recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Horn.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm not in disagreement. To my mind, the phrasing, however, doesn't make it clear that there will be an opportunity for the public to comment. Basically, if we want to replicate the process followed by the IEC in the run-up to the elections, it's not only that the public doesn't have an opportunity to comment, they have an opportunity to object. And then, of course, if Section 47 of the Constitution is satisfied in one of the objections, then the IEC has an obligation to remove somebody from the list. So I would just suggest that we make it clear that the 10-day period is to give the public an opportunity to object in terms of Section 47 of the Constitution.
Thank you. That is a proposal for an amendment. Honourable Manyi.
Thank you, Chair. I think the discussion about the 10 days was to create some kind of an equilibrium of sorts so that the new list people must go through the same rigor that the others went through. So I have no problem with that. The problem I have is on point 3, because in the original submission of lists, there is no onerous burden on the party to be saying, in the best of my knowledge, a candidate presented to party. We leave that to people that want to object. You leave that to Section 47 of the Constitution. But as a party in the original setting, this is now an extra burden on parties to do. But what was the point then of doing this 10 days? Because if we want to create like for like, so we don't want people taking shortcuts. But now, why are you introducing additional burden? In the original list, parties did not have to make this kind of pronouncement that they are now required to make. That's the first point. So I'm deleting point 3 in my book. I'm proposing it must be deleted, first thing. Secondly, I think there must also be some level of nuance, for a lack of a better word, floor crossing, as an example. If, for instance, you were published in some other party list for whatever, if argument's sake, And and you actually even made it to parliament, with that process and all of that. And then you do floor crossing. Why are you subjected to this process again? And all of that. So I think there must be some of those exceptions in the process that if a person had gone through that process, don't repeat it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give Mr. Kausu an opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I would like to respond to both issues. The issue about an undertaking that the persons meet the constitutional requirement. If you read, okay, I'll read it because members may not have it. The Electoral Act 73 of 1998, Section 27, dealing with the submission of lists, says the list or lists must be accompanied by a prescribed declaration signed by the duly authorized representative of the party that each candidate on the list is qualified to stand for elections in terms of the Constitution. So what we are proposing is no different from this. On the issue of publication and whether, as Honorable Manyi says, the floor crossing is word, we were persuaded in the subcommittee that maybe you did not need to include those who would have been published, except that when we looked at the act is clear, Schedule 1A or A1, 1A, yes. Item 20 says, the Secretary to Parliament and the Secretaries of the Provincial Legislatures must publish lists of candidates supplemented in terms of items 16 and 17 or reviewed in terms of 19 within 10 days after the receipt. So in a sense, we are bound to publish the full list of supplementation or review. We will still do the Gazette, but we thought because the Gazette is not accessible, may not even be accessible to members or easily accessible. Hence, we propose that we also use the website, parliamentary website, and the ATC, so that members can see this and maybe get it to their constituencies for them to comment. It's not exactly the same as what the IEC does, but we thought it's close to it. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Ntuli.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I want to suggest that with the explanation provided by Mr. Klaso, in addition to what the subcommittee had recommended, we should accept the recommendation.
Thank you. Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, we agree.
Thank you. So we then adopt it. Thank you very much. We then proceed. Honorable Lakudi, point 6.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. On recusal or withdrawal of members from Parliament from parliamentary proceedings. During the last Parliament, the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services was tasked with nominating a candidate for the post of Deputy Public Protector. On the 3rd of April 2024, the Portfolio Committee reported on its proceedings. The Portfolio Committee indicated that at the start of the interviewing process for candidates, one member questioned the participation of another member in the process on the grounds of conflict of interest. Legal advice was solicited on the matter. The advice made reference to the following regulatory provisions. A National Assembly Rule 30 states that if a member has a personal or private financial or business interest in any matter before a forum of the Assembly of which he or she is a member, he or she must at the commencement of engagement on the matter by the forum immediately declare that interest in accordance with the Code of Conduct contained in the schedule to the joint rules and comply with other provisions of the code. Clause 5 of the code states inter alia that a member must declare any direct, personal or private financial or business interest that the member or any immediate family of the member or any business partner of that member or the immediate family of that member may have may have in a matter to be considered or decided on before any parliamentary committee or other parliamentary forum of which that member is a member or in which that member is participating, or withdraw from the proceedings of that committee or forum when that matter is considered or decided on, unless that committee or forum decides that the member's interest is trivial or not relevant. In short, the Portfolio Committee reported that the rules do not provide for a process to compel a member to recuse himself or herself. The committee therefore recommended that the rules be developed to provide for a process to compel a member to withdraw from the matter should the facts support the reasonable apprehension of bias and any other appropriate measures that may be required to prevent such a situation arising in future. The National Assembly adopted this recommendation on the 9th of May, 2024. The subcommittee deliberated on possible draft rules to give effect to this recommendation. In so doing, members made mention the following. Procedures must balance the specific privileges of members with the need for Parliament to ensure that its proceedings cannot be questioned. Over and above, a member's personal or financial interests consideration should be given circumstances in which a member may be conflicted because of political interest. The procedures should provide for a situation in which a presiding officer or a chairperson was him or herself conflicted. Consideration should be given to procedures whereby a member deemed to have a conflict of interest in a matter is permitted to remain in the respective forum, but not to be permitted to participate or vote. The subcommittee concluded that the draft rules should be considered within the context of Parliament's ethics code and should therefore, together with members' observation, be conveyed to the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dlakude. That is what the subcommittee then concluded. May I just ask for clarification, Honorable Dlakude? If the proposal is that it should be conveyed to the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest, what exactly is meant by the conveyed and what is expected of the Ethics Committee?
I'll ask Mr. Tasso to clarify that. Thank you.
Mr. Tasso?
Deputy Speaker, the committee is meant to give inputs because this is broadly an ethics matter. So the communication to that committee will be specific to give inputs, and those inputs will then go to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee will bring the matter back to the Rules Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ntuli?
Thanks, Chair. That was my understanding as well. And I think you read considered to mean conveyed. And for me, those two are not the same. It has to be considered by them so that they make an input, as Mr. Klaas was saying, which should later be processed by the subcommittee for final consideration by the Rules Committee. So I want to propose that we support that process and await the outcome of that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone opposed to that? Not. We then proceed. Point number 7, Honorable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Deputy Speaker, on definitions and terminology used in the rules. Owing to the configuration of the 7th Parliament, the Rules Committee reviewed some of the definitions used in the rules CATC of the 24th of July, 2024. This included the definition of the opposition party and that of the chief whip. The decisions of the Rules Committee are referenced below. As noted by the Rules Committee at the time, some of these definitions should be thought of as interim in nature, pending a more complete revision of the rules. It was on this basis that further research was undertaken for the subcommittee. The research found that in addition to the aforementioned terms, the concept of majority and minority parties could be clarified. In deliberating on these questions, the subcommittee recommended that the Rules Committee endorse the working definitions agreed to previously. Members nevertheless agreed that the definition of a minority party was necessary, given that the term was unlikely majority party used in the Constitution of 1996. Concerning the definition of minority party, the following possibilities were raised for consideration. A minority party could mean any party other than the largest party. Any party with less than 50 plus 1% of the seats in the House, or a party with less than a certain percentage of the seats. The subcommittee agreed that the parties should consider these propositions and make written submissions to the Rules Committee for further consideration. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm thirsty. Can I get a cup of coffee outside?
Thank you. Before you go, Honorable Lakude, let's just deal with this particular point. So that is a proposal by the subcommittee. Any opposition to that? Do we accept that? Good, thank you. Honorable members, there is some food outside. So it is up to you whether you now want to have a break or whether we want to push through and finish and then have something to eat. So could I get some direction from you? Would you like a break? Right. Honorable members, I think that we have been going on for quite some time. Let's take a brief break. Let's make it maximum 10 minutes and then we're back and we conclude. Thank you. Right, honourable members, I think we can continue and I've decided that we do proceed with our dinner whilst we meet to make it a working dinner so that we don't extend the time for too much. So we will proceed. Honourable Dlakude, if you are in a position to go on to point 8.
Yeah, Deputy Speaker. Just before she proceeds, I just need a clarity on something.
Please proceed.
You know, under definition, the rule that we're just entertaining now, the suggestion is that I want to focus on bullet number 2, that a minority part could mean any part with less than 50% plus 1. 50 plus 1% of the seats in the House. I want to understand, what does that mean? I understand that we're trying to define a minority because of the gap we've identified. But just to get a sense, because I'm not a member of the subcommittee, so I just understand what we mean by that. If it could mean any of these 3, including this one, what we mean?
Thank you. We have already adopted that, but let's just refer back and go back to that. I'm going to ask Mr. Kasu to give an explanation on that. Mr. Kasu.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The members of the subcommittee may assist me, but what is always obtained, Chief Whip, is that you had a majority party and all the other parties are regarded as minority parties. So your majority party, so there's absolute majority and there's what they could call relative majority, but we've always gone with absolute majority, which means you have 50% plus 1. That's the majority. So any party in that context that would have had, let's say, 199 would have been a minority party in that sense. So here, all we are saying is that this matter is not done yet. The subcommittee must still look at this and look at different permutations in terms of what a minority party is. So prior to the 7th Parliament, for instance, the DA would have been a minority party because the rules said chief whip of the largest minority party, you know. So all the other parties except the ANC was a majority party. I hope that's been.
Thank you. Does that clarify, Honourable Ntuli?
Yeah.
But we have the decision is that it be referred back.
I just speak of the Speaker, my comfort. I really find solace on the fact that this is it's going back for some work. So let me not delay the meeting on it. Yeah.
Honourable Manye.
Yeah. No, Chair, I think Mr. Klaso went too deep. This is not that deep. Let me read it. Any party with less than 50 plus 1% of the seats in the House is a minority party. This can't be any clearer than this. So in other words, any party with 50 plus 1% is a majority. So if you don't have 50 plus 1% of the seats, if you don't have that, you're a minority. This is what this point seeks to say.
Thank you. I think Mr. Castle also explained that quite comprehensively. Let's proceed. Honourable Dlakude.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thanks for allowing us to have some coffee. On government undertakings and petitions. The Assembly is constitutionally obligated to provide mechanisms to ensure that members of the executive are accountable to it and to maintain oversight of their exercise of executive authority. In addition to the mechanisms that already exist, the Assembly does not have specific instruments to monitor undertakings and promises made by members of the executive from the floor of the House. Moreover, while portfolio and standing committees are already While portfolio and standing committees already process public petitions, which are regulated by the rules, guidelines, and Parliament's petitions framework, practices in committees vary, and in some cases, petitions are not dealt with in a timely manner. These shortcomings led to a proposal to create a special committee to follow up on executive undertakings and petitions. The subcommittee considered these proposals and agreed with the need to establish such a committee. The subcommittee therefore recommended that the Rules Committee consider the ensuing rule amendment and the guidelines attached as Annexure C. Proposed rule amendment. On definitions, executive undertakings means any undertaking, assurance, commitment, pledge, or promise made by a member of the executive from the floor of the House. Rule 252 sub A, establishment. There is an executive undertakings and petitions committee. Rule 252B, composition. The committee consists of the number of assembly members that the speaker may determine with concurrence of the Rules Committee, subject to the provisions of Rule 154. Rule 252C, functions and powers of the proposed committee. The Executive Undertakings and Petitions Committee must pursue the implementation of executive undertakings made from the floor of the House. Report to the House at least once every year before the end of September on the extent to which the executive undertakings have been implemented and were implemented. Whether such implementation was within the stipulated or prescribed time, and to consider and report where called upon on the petitions referred to it by the Speaker in accordance with the rules of petitions, the guidelines and the parliamentary petitions framework. The committee may recommend guidelines for the adoption by the Rules Committee regarding the execution of its mandate. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dlakude. Honorable members, that is the proposal. Honorable Ndlozi.
No, we agree with this overdue committee, and we indeed welcome it. Speaker, we just want a slight amendment that it must be, the month of reporting must be April, not September. Before the end of April. That is our only request.
Thank you, Honorable Schlauly.
I would have wanted to know why before I agree. Maybe before I come, do you mind, because we just don't want to disagree for the sake of disagree. Before he comes, and I'll make my submission before, after.
Honorable Ndlozi, your motivation?
Well, it seems to me, Honorable Speaker, that it coincides with the end of a financial year in which those undertakings may be implicated. So and also that in an election year, to say September, it means after, it means that year there won't be a report, because Parliament rises during an election year, end of April or end of May, depending on what happens. So those are the two considerations. Thank you. We want to go to elections with the fresh report in the minds of our people.
Thank you. That is the motivation. Honorable Mshlali.
No, thanks, Chair. I have absolutely no problem with that. I think the motivation is sound. I just want to speak on a separate issue on page 7, the last two sentences. The National Assembly rules also refer to minority party in Rule 123 and 132. That's fine. Rule 1664 also states that a committee may not submit a minority report. Does therefore contrast majority with minority. My difficulty there is that I've dealt with this rule before where the report will always be a minority, whether, okay, there's no relationship with the minority report and the.
Deputy Speaker, I don't want to do that. I think you should do it.
Honourable Ndlozi, yes, we have dealt with the previous point already. We are now on the undertakings and petitions.
That's a footnote, brother.
So I was just wondering where you're going to, Honourable Mhlawuli.
Remember, I was outside, so I agree. I was outside, I may have missed this.
Thank you. Honourable members, there has been a proposal by the Honourable Ndlozi, Mr. Tkasu.
Maybe we should explain first, we are not disagreeing necessarily with the proposal. Why September? September was really having in mind annual reports and the BRR processes. That as committees go through those budgetary review and recommendation reports, they will then take on board undertakings made by the executive. We could have two reporting moments, the April one and the September, to take care of the concern raised by Honourable Ndlozi. Thanks.
Honourable members, there's a proposal, Honourable Ntuli.
I think, Chair, Deputy Speaker, that carries more weight. Elections are taking place once every 5 years. But the alignment that Mr. Klaso is explaining, I think in my own view is quite useful. Let's rather persuade Honourable Ndlozi to align with that so that we don't take it away from the processes that Mr. Klaso has well explained. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Honourable Ndlozi.
I thought Council reconciled us that we instead could go for 2 reporting periods, in which case I'm covered. In fact, it makes the volumes processable if it's April and September or March and September, that's fine.
I see there is agreement with that, so we then approve this within the amendment that it is twice April and September that reporting is done. Thank you very much. We then proceed with number 9, Honourable Lakude.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. On oversight over the presidency, Honourable Ndlozi and Mente. Thank you. The Rules Committee has for some time been seized with the question of how best the Assembly could oversee Vote 1, the presidency, as part of the national budget, mindful of the unique and overarching role of the presidency. This question arose as some political parties in the Assembly suggested that the Constitution of 1996 required the Assembly to establish or mandate a committee for this purpose. Other parties suggested that the presidency had grown in recent years and now incorporated a host of projects, office bearers, advisors, and functionaries. In April 2023, the Rules Committee agreed that it would be instructive for a delegation of members to undertake a study tour to engage other parliaments to assess how they oversaw the operations of the Office of the Head of the Executive. Following the study tour to the United Kingdom, the delegation recommended as follows, that while South African Parliament already has comprehensive procedures to facilitate oversight and accountability, there remain features of the rules and practices that could be enriched. The National Assembly should remain proactive and open to reforms to support its systems and practices. And in the case of oversight over the presidency, the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, or its equivalent in the 7th Parliament, be mandated to scrutinize the budget and spending of the vote on the presidency. Based in part on these recommendations, members of the subcommittee advanced different propositions. One argument was that given the multifold function within the presidency, as well as the probability that the president did not delegate responsibility for all these functions to ministers, the House should establish a dedicated committee to scrutinize the vote in the same way as other departments. According to this view, further details were necessary before the Rules Committee could determine a way forward. A view was also expressed that more parliaments, especially on the African continent, could be studied to assess how they exercised oversight over the head of the executive. It is recommended, consistent with the initiative of the 6th Parliament, that the Rules Committee consider the following resolution. 1, noting that the National Assembly Rules Committee of the 6th Parliament agreed that while the South African Parliament already has comprehensive procedures to facilitate oversight and accountability, there remain features of the rules and practices that could be enriched. And in the case of oversight over the presidency, the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation be mandated to scrutinize the budget and spending of the vote on the presidency. Therefore resolves that for the duration of the 7th Parliament, the Speaker must assign those aspects of the budget, vote and operations of the presidency that are not scrutinized by other committees to the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. And the leader of government business must inform the Speaker in writing of the member of the executive delegated to account for the administration of the presidency. It was noted that in the implementation of this decision, the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation could identify any shortcomings that may become evident in this oversight over vote 1. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I don't know if Honorable Mikalakis is calling for an order. I haven't finished speaking yet. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Lakude. I now give opportunity, Honorable Michalakis, then Honorable Ndlozi, then Honorable Manyi, then Honorable Nodada.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I'm of the opinion that we need a separate committee for oversight over the presidency. Its scrutinization function should not be limited to the budget and the spending of the vote on the presidency, but that we establish such a committee within Parliament and amend the resolution accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi.
Yeah, there's no need, Deputy Speaker, to deliberate. I think the grounds have already been canvassed. Firstly, we don't agree that you must do another trip, Comrade Doris. You're not going anywhere. That's the first one. So we reject this recommendation as a whole. And then the resolution of the Rules Committee must be a oversight committee must be established on the president. And the rules, sub-rules committee must go develop a rule, basic. I'm very, very confident that our chairperson in the sub-rules is going to convene us very soon to process that process. Because then there's this question of budget vote 1. So I think, Speaker, we agree 100% with the chief whip, but I thought the formulation must be in that way. We reject all of this as a whole. The chief whip of the DA, we agree with the chief whip of the DA. The chief whip of the DA has ministers in the executive. He doesn't mind strengthening parliamentary oversight over the executive. I don't know what other parties are doing in GNU, but this one does not mind a strong parliament. Because you think we're doubting, we don't doubt. We welcome people who understand that parliament must be strengthened constitutionally to exercise. Do not absolve the president from being held accountable in a portfolio committee. We can, whether we're going to call it that or some other committee, but there must be a committee which deals with budget vote 1 and other things. That's the resolution we're requesting in the rules committee, and then the sub-rules will go and develop the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi, Honorable Mani, and then Honorable Nodada.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I think a point must be made that it's quite interesting that of all places to be visited, Africa is the one. When we all know that this is where most despots are. So to go and want to get a best practice from a sea of despots, what exactly are you expecting? So I think that was even problematic, Chair. But it's a point in passing that I also reject that trip, particularly to an area you're not going to learn anything more about accountability. Firstly. Secondly, I think, Chair, on a different day, we have to deal with the executive authority that gets given to this Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Because the more you give this department, hey guys, the more you give this department executive authority, the more you conflict it. Because how are they going to monitor and evaluate themselves as it were? This department should not be given, I mean, even this thing of, we say to the public that we've dissolved the DPE, but the next day, the whole DPE is reimagined in the presidency. And then before you know, the minister that must do monitoring and evaluation is now the executive authority of this DPE and all of that. So Chairperson, I'm saying even the destination that was even recommended here is undesirable. And therefore, we support the view as well to say you need a separate committee that is going to deal with these matters. This one we reject. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nodada, and then Honorable Mashlale.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. It's interesting to see that there was a study taught to the UK on the oversight of the head of the executive. But the same study tour maybe didn't look at the fact that there's interpellations there or short debate or snap debates. But that's besides the point. I just want for process purposes, Deputy Speaker, that the proposal being put by the Honorable Michalaikis, with that amendment put by Honorable Ndlozi, which I think is a good amendment to it, is put to the Rules Committee, and then we take a decision to make sure that there's an establishment of a committee on the presidency, and then the subcommittee on rules, then make a determination of how that fits into our procedures and our rules in Parliament, just for procedure purposes, so that we're clear, we don't take another long discussion like we did
in the previous discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to allow Honorable Mshlali.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Our view is that these recommendations should be supported. And they are not supported because we are trying to absolve the president or shield the president from accountability. We are recognizing that the discussion itself came as a result that there are gaps in terms of the accountability in the presidency. And in the recommendations, it does say the speaker will have to identify those aspects that accountability leaves, and people are worried about that there's no accountability on certain aspects of the budget vote and operations of the vote one. And we're saying that maybe we need to identify those and take them to monitoring and planning so that it doesn't look like we just want the physical appearance of the president in a committee and over issues that we have identified as a gap and we want accountability on. By the way, there's been this talk about the study group from the study tour to the UK, and by the way, it's not only the UK, it has been Kenya, it has been Ghana. For those who are questioning that it did not go to African countries, it did for that information. So there were African countries that were visited for the study tour as well as the UK, but we have not seen that report. And it's very difficult to understand what that committee came back with. For us to agree whether the recommendations made there are sound or not sound. I personally have not interacted with that report, and I don't know who amongst us has interacted with and can reach a conclusion that it helped us to go to a point where we say we need a separate committee. So our view is that we are not attempting to shield the president, but all these questions that we are raising, until they are answered, we will support this recommendation that is brought to us by the subcommittee of rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. No, Deputy Speaker, we don't support this, the rules here. We must have a new resolution which we must take, as the Chief Whip of the DA has already indicated. But secondly, I think there is something wrong with how we are recording our meetings. Because I remember vividly well the meeting in June, where this matter was also vented upon, that it was about having a committee on the president. And the argument was that what becomes an accountability mechanism for the meantime, and we said monitoring and evaluation could continue. However, we need that mechanism which is going to hold the president accountable to Parliament. I do not know how then it became an issue of should we do it or should we stick to monitoring. That was never what we spoke about in that meeting. It was not a matter of the subcommittee must go and choose if we need it or not. It was straightforward. We need a committee on the presidency. And in the meantime, monitoring and evaluation must continue. Whoever sent these notes to the subcommittee, something is very wrong with how we record meetings. It was never that argument. Secondly, monitoring and evaluation in its current form is a dismal failure. In its current form, it's a dismal failure. We've got everything going wrong in this country. It has never picked up a single thing. Even intelligence is there. They haven't picked up a single thing. How then we rely on such people to report on what the president does and vote one? We rely to such people who cannot deliver on their mandate currently. It's not correct. But another thing is that premiers in South Africa, I don't know why we went to other places. Premiers have got premier committees in provinces. They have committees that they report to premiers. The premier office has a committee and all those things. So it's a standard practice here at home. We need a committee. We support what the DA chief whip has recommended as a resolution of this rules committee. And this matter must then go to subcommittee to deal with the nitty-gritties and come back as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mente. Honorable Lakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. While we agree on the oversight of vote one, the presidency, the discussions, yes, I want to agree also with what Honorable Mahlaule said, and also on the issue of what was agreed upon in June, what Honorable Mente was referring to. Yes, that the mandate must be given to the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee. Honorable Deputy Speaker, this matter of the Oversight Committee on the presidency is not new. It was there in the 6th Parliament, and hence the Speaker made sure that, the former Speaker made sure that the Chief Whips Forum embark on a study tour to the UK and Kenya. And also, let's not forget that there was a report by the Budget Office, in which the Budget Office report was saying that in this matter, there's a need for more research, more resources must be put on this issue of research around this matter of the Oversight Committee on the presidency. And also, let's not forget that the president is not a member of parliament. So that research need to be done in those parliaments that uses the same system as ours. And also, there's a need to identify the gaps on vote one, which are not oversighted, so that when we come to a decision, we know exactly what is it in vote one that is not oversighted. It's not oversighted by anyone, so that we can close that gap. While we agree on the oversight mechanism, we want to support that, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker. For now, the mandate be given to the Monitoring and Evaluation Portfolio Committee. They haven't done anything. They haven't reported to Parliament as yet, because the mandate was never given to them. Let's give the mandate to them and continue to identify those gaps and make sure that the other side, be it the Budget Office and Parliament, be it a desktop research, be done, so that when we come to this conclusion of taking a decisions, we know exactly what we are deciding on. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Lakude. Any more comments? Honorable Ntuli, Honorable Cornell.
No, thanks, Deputy Speaker. Just, I think Lakude has dealt with one aspect that was worrying me. Firstly, we are told that a study tour was conducted in the UK. nobody has explained to us what are the differences and the similarities with the UK system as opposed to ours. For instance, Lagude makes a good point that in South Africa, the premiers are members of the provincial legislatures. In South Africa, the president is not a member. I'm quite certain about that. In South Africa, the president has both the authority of the executive as a state president and the president of the executive, or the executive president is responsible for cabinet, but is not a member of parliament. Now, my difficulty is that I cannot understand, nobody has explained to the extent that I can understand, that if the issues that are of concern, which are not being properly considered by Parliament for the presidents to be accountable, if those issues were placed in a particular portfolio committee, in this case, the suggestion is that is the monitoring, planning, and evaluation. Notwithstanding what has been said about whether that committee, I think there's a view we individually hold about the effectiveness of different committees. That is understandable. But I have not heard, at least here in this meeting, a cogent explanation or justification that even if we take those operational matters or tasks of the presidents to be accounted by a particular department within the presidents, there will still be a gap in accountability. And I do want us to understand that, by the way, whether ultimately we have a committee on the president or we don't have a committee on vote one, because I know for some of us, we may be engaging this matter under the predication that once we have that committee, so the president is going to sit across to us and we interrogate him as an individual. My understanding that this is more about the vote, not the president. And that is why it's always important for us to be alive to the distinction that exists between a premier, who's a member of the provincial legislature, who votes when a legislature has to take a position on any question, and the president in our context, who's not a member of the National Assembly, but also a head of state in our country. So that is why I think I have a difficulty with this explanation that has been provided here around the formation of the committee, Deputy Speaker. I think one is really having a difficulty to understand what is it that makes us believe that even if those matters are referred to a particular portfolio committee in the presidents, they will still not be accounted for. I think one would like to get that clarity.
Thank you, Honourable Ntuli, Honourable Manyi, and then Honourable Wessels, and then Honourable Mente.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Sorry, my apologies. Before you go, Honourable Manyi, Honourable Koornhof had his hand up first.
Thank you. I want to support the proposal that is before us, because in A, it says there are maybe some aspects of the budget vote that are not scrutinized by other committees. And a speaker is free to obtain that information, or it can be supplied to the speaker. What other aspects are not scrutinized? Because the presidency is there to guide and plan coordination, facilitation, and provide leadership. The implementation doesn't happen in the presidency. The implementation happens in other departments. So there's no gap in accountability. And it's all reported in the annual reports and financial statements. So what I want to propose is that we accept 2A and B, and that if the speaker requires that information, that'll be supplied to her, come back to the Rules Committee or the Subcommittee of Rules, and guided with information that is now supplied. What is the exact role and duty of the presidency, and where is the implementation taking place? Then we can take an informed decision about whether there's oversight or not.
Thank you, Honourable Manyi.
Thank you, Chair. 2 points. One, I think the posture that seeks to define the president above the law must be dismissed with contempt. We can't have a situation where, I mean, if I look at the chief whip of the largest minorities, when he says that it's not like in the provinces where the premier is part of the legislature and all of that, and seeks to position a president as somebody above everything else and therefore untouchable. What kind of a characterization is this? So I have a problem with this characterization, Chair, because it seeks to make the president to be above the law. We reject that with serious contempt. That's the first thing. Secondly, I think it is important for members around here to understand the reason we are talking about budget vote 1 in 2024, 2023, 2024, and we never spoke about it in any other time, even on the 5th and the 4th administration. And the reason is simple. It's because presidency just had a DG there and just human resource things and all of that. This current president is in the appropriations, there'll be like a billion or so to say for a job creation initiative, as an example. This is a real thing. It never was with the other presidents. All of those things were done in other departments. This one has consolidated, this one has consolidated a lot of what was otherwise done in other areas and all of that. So Chair, the issue of, that's why this thing arose, because then before you know, there's a huge budget for envoys that the president controls. Only him then controls these envoys. No minister controls that. And there are quite a few things that he does that has not been delegated to anybody else. And therefore, the issue of a budget vote that specifically focuses on the president is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps just for information of Honourable Mani, this has been a matter that has come from the 6th and the 5th Parliament. It's not a new matter. Honourable Wessels.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Yes, I wanted to start there. This has been a repeated issue that we've been talking about for so long. But let me agree with the members from the ANC that the presidency is not a normal department. The president is not a normal member of the executive. He is the head of state. And saying that, that is why I cannot support this proposal. Because saying that the Portfolio Committee on Monitoring, Planning and Evaluation must do the oversight is rendering the president and that type of oversight as normal oversight, which is it's not. And I think that's the point that we've been repeating so many times. That is very clear from the study to a report as well, that there's another sort of oversight mechanism needed. And that is why we can't just give it to a portfolio committee. I do not understand the argument with regards to a member of parliament or not a member of parliament. There's a lot of people that account to this parliament daily that's not members of parliament. It doesn't make sense. Does the presidency have an accounting officer? Is there a DG? Yes, there is. So why can't that accounting officer answer? Why can't the president be called? Why can't a minister in the presidency not be called to an oversight mechanism? It does not make sense to render it normal oversight, but it also does not make sense to say that there's no need for an oversight committee. Not or saying that question time in parliament is sufficient oversight is not true. And nobody can say that it's true. I do not understand why there's this fierce opposition to having a committee established that will do oversight in a special way. not making the life of the head of state so difficult that he can't get to his job. That is why it can't just be a normal portfolio committee. With a set of rules that establishes that oversight committee so that it doesn't hinder the head of state. It also, Honorable Koornhof, has nothing to do with implementation. It has to do with the functioning of vote one. There's money spent, there's decisions made, there's an accounting officer, and there must be an accountability to the legislature. So, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I propose that we resolve that there should be an oversight committee and that we refer this, as proposed by and seconded by other members, that we refer this back to the, or refer this to the Subcommittee on Rules to formulate the rules pertaining to a sui generis oversight committee that will enhance accountability whilst not hindering the work of the head of state. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Wessels. I have Honourable Mente, and then I have Honourable Michalakis, and then Honourable Frolick.
Yeah, Deputy Speaker, Honorable Manyi covered me on the issue of a danger of holding someone above everyone. Now, maybe we need to make examples. A child fall into a pit toilet in Limpopo, and then another child falls into the pit toilet in the Eastern Cape. The president takes that task and make it a presidential program. It falls off the cracks. No one is accountable for it. To this day, that school still does not have toilets. Another child falls again, I think last year, into a pit toilet with a presidential program on course, reporting nowhere on sanitation. Number two, as we speak, seated here, there's a holding company for state-owned entities being established by the president. No one knows about it. When it's reported in the finest print, that holding company will only report there and then somewhat to monitoring and evaluation, but the president will be accountable for it. So I'm trying to paint a picture that besides that which we appropriate to vote one, there's a mass of other duties that the president take over and report nowhere, is held accountable nowhere, no one performs oversight on him. And that is not correct. So for each and every task that falls onto the lap of the president must be fully accounted for, must be fully monitored, must be fully reported for. If there are cracks and follow-ups, that must be effectively done by this parliament, and there must be a committee that looks into that. That committee will deal with how quite often it meets, how it accommodates the schedule of the president, who must go wherever. That is none of our business. Our business is to make sure that nothing which we appropriated taxpayers' money for is not accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mente. Honourable Michalakis, you had your hand raised.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I have been sufficiently covered by the last two speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have Honourable Frolick.
No, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Reference was made, is continuously made to the study tour that has taken place. I want to put it on record that where we were, and I think you were part of the delegation, Deputy Speaker, in the UK, and there was also another delegation that went to Kenya and to Ghana. There's no oversight over the president or presidency or a prime minister. In the UK, there's a liaison committee, and the report is available for members to go and read. But just to get to what the Honourable Wessels have said, We're talking now about a special committee. The rules talk about a portfolio or standing committee. So if we go that way in that thinking, I would like to know what will be so special about such a committee that will make it different from the work that a portfolio or standing committee will do, because the intention of oversight will only be defined while we know what the powers of such a committee will be, keeping in mind what I said earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Honorable Ndlozi would like to comment.
Thank you, the Deputy Speaker. Let us have some level of intellectual fidelity to the decisions that we make. We have traversed this ground and we agreed, okay, for the budgeting process that occurred, we will take budget vote 1 to monetary, whilst we work out the details of a committee to do oversight on the president. We made that decision. So you comrades are, I don't know on what grounds, you are the ones who need to explain to us what changed, because we've traversed these grounds before. So, Deputy Speaker, the details are simple. They'll be worked out in the SAP rules. Honorable Florik is welcome to attend there to hear the special, unique regime of the committee. What we're canvassing here is a principle. And the principle is there must be a committee on the presidency to exercise oversight. And it must be able, as part of its responsibilities, to process budget vote 1. That's what we're here for. Then the details, you don't have to hear them now. You can come. Honorable Doris can send you the schedule. We meet most of the time here, Honorable Florik. Then you are welcome to come. Honorable Vessels will be there, and then we can workshop the idea of specialness. So the principle, and we are not going to change our minds. We have traversed these grounds. Budget vote 1 goes to a committee that is going to be established on the presidency. The last thing I want to say, Speaker, is the problem of the South African democracy in the last 30 years is precisely a relationship that the executive had with parliament that was spoiled by a one dominant party political system. Maybe things could have worked if the members of that one dominant party who were remaining in parliament strengthened the quality of executive oversight. All these mechanisms are being put in place because we get very little. We're even now looking at interpellations because you've been bullying us and there's nothing we could do. For the first time, look at you, sitting there one by one. You don't have power.
Honorable
We're going
Ndlozi, I
to
think
exercise
Honorable Ndlozi,
oversight.
that is not necessary. You are now digressing.
I accept the order, Honorable Deputy Speaker, but I'm saying we would like to thank the voters of South Africa to give 40% to the people who have been abusing parliament. It is in the rulings of the Constitutional Court, Deputy Speaker. I'm not saying it light, I'm saying it with kindness so that they take it positively, but it's in the rulings of the Constitutional Court about the extent to which Parliament has not been doing its executive oversight. Multiple, we can quote them. This is one of those ways we're trying to strengthen holding the president accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ntuli.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. I think the first point that I want to make is that in the Rules Committee meeting I attended, I do recall that we were having a consensus about the need to strengthen the accountability of the president. There was a consensus on that, no question about it. And that consensus emanated from the argument that Honorable Mente made at the time, which was about the consolidation of power and certain entities being seen to be going to the presidents without clarity as to where they are going to be accounting. But the way in which Honorable Dlozi is representing it today, for me, it's a departure from what I understood to have been our decision. What is being said here today, coming from the DA first, is that there must be a portfolio committee. So we are going, the proposal is going further than where we were last time. Last time was that let's strengthen the mechanism. The new proposal that is being made by the DA and supported by the EFF and others is now that we must form a portfolio committee on the president. I want to be clear that that must be understood for what it is, which is a new proposal. It's not a decision that we have taken as a Rules Committee. The Rules Committee decided that we need to strengthen the mechanisms of ensuring that the presidents account to Parliament. And we all had a common view about the need to do so. Now, this new proposal, which of course is also a departure from the recommendation of the Rules Committee, is what, Deputy Speaker, I don't agree with. I don't agree with the new proposal that is being made by the TA, and like in any other decisions that we have had to take in the Rules Committee, if the Rules Committee takes that decision, the Rules Committee would have taken the decision. But I think I need to record and correct the misrepresentation of our past meeting, that we had actually taken a decision on the need to set up a portfolio committee. No such a decision exists. The decision was that we must find a mechanism to strengthen and one of the mechanisms is what is proposed here, which is being rejected by some members of the Rules Committee. And I have no problem. They are perfectly at liberty to disagree with that mechanism, but I needed to be on record that we are not walking away from a decision that was once taken by the committee. We are entertaining a new proposal on the table, and the meeting will decide what it does with that proposal, but it must not be presented as a decision that was arrived at by the Rules Committee, from which today the ANC disagrees with.
Thank you, Honourable Thuli. Honourable Michalakis.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I just want to clarify, we're not moving away from the decision that we must find a mechanism. That decision stands. We all agree that we need to find a mechanism. The proposal is the mechanism. So the mechanism that's proposed in the report is the one that we don't agree with, and we are proposing a different mechanism. We still agree with the original decision that there must be a mechanism. What we are disagreeing on is the kind of mechanism, and therefore the proposal was made of the Portfolio Committee. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Ndlozi.
Yes, Speaker, just to add, if that was the case, if that submission by the Chief Whip of the ANC is correct, why did we say, in the meantime, we will refer to monitoring and evaluation all the requirements of Budget Vote 1? If we come back and say, we said in the meantime, whilst we go work out what nature would a committee on the presidency take? We agreed and said, but in the meantime, now your proposal is saying the meantime must be the permanent time. And in the sub-rules, I said to Mr. Klaso, I didn't want to be too blunt. I said, you must, when you write the report, put both proposals, option 1 and option 2. We made this proposal already in the subcommittee. So we are having to repeat it now because Mr. Klaso, again, did not include what, because we are what? We look like cleaners, I don't know. We already made this proposal that let's go to the Rules Committee, must put both options. Option 2 is It must not go to monitoring and evaluation. That was an arrangement of the meantime. And we were so merciful because you needed the budget. It was during that process where we were rushing budgets. And then we complied because we're like, okay, there was some long period of constituting a coalition. There was an even longer period of the president doing the executive. Then he came back with a plethora, a moria of ministers. Today it ends. We're going to constitute, portfolio committee is a word for a committee of parliament. Don't worry. That's the chief whip of the DA is saying a committee of parliament. We call them portfolio committees. If you want it to be a joint portfolio committee, and you understand, it's just a committee of parliament to exercise oversight on the president and his activities, and the deputy president, and the Eighth Council, the what, all those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Ndlozi. If I can summarize at this particular point, and I also recall the meeting of June where this matter was indeed referred to a subcommittee for deliberation. We now have the report of the subcommittee with a recommendation that we have to decide on. However, a counter proposal was made by the Honourable Michalakis, which is not covered in this particular recommendation given to this committee. And the Rules Committee is the body that decides on the rules, and then it goes to the House. So the subcommittee make recommendations. So it is for this committee then to decide whether the recommendations as stated in the report are adopted or not, and whether the counter proposal made by the Honourable Michalakis is adopted or not, which will then go either way to the House for a final decision. So I will have to start with the last proposal based on the recommendations, and that is the one by Honourable Michalakis, that there is an accounting mechanism for vote 1. Honourable Michalakis, have I captured that correctly, or please give us the wording?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. No, it must be more specific than just an accounting mechanism for vote 1. There must be a parliamentary committee in the National Assembly over the presidency. Thank you.
I take it there is a seconder for this. I will then put that to the vote, and Mr. Tkasu, if you and the staff can just check whether we have all the members who are required, what the quorum is, and what the majority plus 1 will be. Mr. Tkasu?
Just want to clarify for record purposes, ma'am.
There is another, Mr. Tkasu? Yes, Honourable Member.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I have been converted to a member because an alternate who was converted has left. All of that has been passed on to me, so I'm able to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We take note of that. Mr. Tkasu?
I just wanted to understand the question. Is the question that the mechanism be established and be referred to the subcommittee for the detail, or be established and goes to the House? I was asking if the question is whether the mechanism be established and referred back to the subcommittee for the detail.
If I may.
Please proceed, Honourable Michalakis.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Yes, indeed. The committee must be established here, and then for the subcommittee to do the final details of the rules. Thank you.
Right, that is the proposal that is now put to the Rules Committee. Those in favour of that proposal, please raise your hands. Mr. Kasu, if you can give us members present, the quorum is 12 regardless, and members present, the majority of members present.
Chair, we are 20 in the House, including the Chair, Deputy Speaker. And I'm told that 10, am I right? 10 members have voted in favor. So the 20 includes the chairperson, who has both a deliberative vote and a casting vote. Hmm? No, I'm just explaining the status of the chair.
A point of order. I want.
Honorable Ndlozi.
I don't know how to collapse this day. Deputy Chair, we can't have been 19. And then now we're now 20 and no one left.
Want to explain that?
We are 19. We are 19 and 10 people have voted.
Let's just make absolutely sure, Mr. Kasu.
No, Mr. Lyons will explain. Thank you. She's a counter.
Honorable members, so we have 10 votes at the moment for. We haven't cast the votes against yet. We will count the votes. In the previous vote, the Deputy Speaker as the Chair did not cast a vote.
Can I?
Honorable Ndlozi.
No, I read. Things. No, Chairperson, 23 members of this committee always already included the Speaker. So if we are 19, that includes the presiding officer, which in this case is the Deputy Speaker. 50% plus one of that is 10. The question is closed. You don't have to count the difference. You don't have to say, I only have the 10 votes. I don't know what is left. It's very basic. What is left is the minority.
Chair.
Mr. Kasu.
Our advice would be to run the whole course. Take both sides and then we can work out the numbers.
That will be the best. So those members in opposition to this proposal, please raise your hands. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 opposed and 10 in favor. So the proposal carries. Thank you, honorable members. The proposal is that there will be a committee. It will be referred back to the subcommittee to work out the details. And those proposals will then have to go to the House because it also comes back to the Rules Committee once again. So it is still a long way. Thank you, honorable members. The last point on the agenda, Honorable Blakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Progress on Rules for Money Bills and Related Matters Act. In September 2023, the Rules Committee mandated the subcommittee to draft rules to supplement the Money Bills and Related Matters Act of 2009. The Secretariat subsequently prepared rules for discussion. Thereafter, correspondence was addressed to the standing committees on finance and appropriations in both houses to make inputs on the draft. The Rules Committee also agreed that the draft proposals be sent to the respective authorities in the National Council of Provinces, given the need for coordination between houses. The chairpersons of the committee supported the rules in general, but raised several concerns in respect of the potential effect of certain rules on the program of Parliament. Given the concerns expressed and to facilitate decision-making, Further correspondence was addressed to the chairs of the aforementioned committees in the 7th Parliament, given that they are new and should be consulted on matters that affect their work, as well as the NCOP, with the request that the NCOP liaise with provinces on the matter, and if needed, revert back by the end of October. The subcommittee is confident that these rules be finalized before the end of the year. In conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker, in the course of deliberations, the subcommittee acknowledged the importance of the rules in enabling the National Assembly to execute its functions in a manner that served a multi-party, participatory, and accountable government. The purpose of the rules was to provide a framework within which parliamentary politics and dynamics could unfold, a framework in which members could best represent their different constituencies. As a framework, the rules should not, as a general principle, be revised without good cause. At the same time, the rules should be considered living articles that should, where necessary, be updated to respond to the changing needs of an evolving parliament and society. It is in this context that the subcommittee has considered and reported to the matters referred to it. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you,
Deputy
Honorable
Speaker.
Lakudi. Honorable members, this is for noting. Are we all on the same page there? We note this. Thank you. Honorable members, thank you very much. I know this has been a very long session, but it is necessary because the rules are the guiding principles that determine how we work. And it has a critical role in the functioning of Parliament. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation. And thank you for your sometimes robust participation. But we will then refer the matters back that have to be referred back to the subcommittee, and we will take it from there. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.